So, hello. I'm Sharon, and as you can tell, I stutter. And I do a ton of other things as well. I'm a writer. I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a partner, I'm a friend. The thing that probably takes up all of my time is stuttering. And of all the titles that I have had, stuttering is the one that has informed me the most, just as a person. And stuttering is a tricky thing in that it forces you to not only face like your biggest insecurity daily, it also forces you to show that insecurity to pretty much every single person that you are going to come across. I can't tell you how many times I've been at Starbucks and have been like, I want a venti, latte, and I've changed it because I knew that I probably wasn't going to be able to say the L word. Well, before I go any further, I just wanted to tell you a couple of facts about stuttering to kind of help you understand it. The majority of kids who are between the ages of like 3 and 5 at some point stutter. They eventually outgrow it by the time they hit first or second grade, or they continue to do it for the rest of their lives. There is research out there that shows that stuttering could possibly be genetic. I know that both of my parents stuttered. My father did until he was about 17 or 16. My brother stuttered until he was 10 or 11, and then it just went away. And so when I began to stutter when I was around 3 years old, people thought, oh, she's just going to, outgrow it because pretty much everybody else did. Well, I'm 31 and I'm still hoping that I will outgrow this thing that has become a huge part of my life. There's also a conference for people who stutter, and it's hosted by the National Stuttering Association, and it's got the hilarious acronym The other thing about that's great, is that anytime I want to tell a joke, I don't know if it's going to come out. The acronym is MSA, which can confuse people when you're talking about going to the awesome MSA conference, which you love, and you need your best friends. So, just me as a person, I've always been pretty shy and pretty sensitive. And stuttering did not help those things. I can think of so many times throughout my life when stuttering has been the only thing that really that I took with me. I remember in like 5th grade when we all had to take turns reading out loud. And so I would count the paragraphs, and then I would count the people until it was my turn. And so I would find the paragraph, and then I would pick the words that I knew that I was probably going to stutter on, and I would practice them over and over and over again. And I would be like, yes, I can do this, I can read this thing, it's not going to be terrifying, and everything's going to be perfect. Well, of course, every time I would stand up and the words wouldn't come out. I remember my freshman year in biology class, I had to give an oral presentation on a genetic disorder called phenylketonuria, or PKU for short. The night before, I stayed up until like 4 or 5 in the morning. I did all of the research I could from encyclopedias because it was the 90s. And I had this presentation down. I had even started jokes in there to make people comfortable. And I stand up in front of the class to give this presentation, and nothing came out. And it was really hard, and I hated myself. In college, I would actually drop classes where there was a presentation because I couldn't handle it. And so finally, post college, I was trying to get a job, and in order to get the job, you have to go through phone and in-person interviews. And you can talk to any stutterer, and they will tell you that they hate talking on the phone. And again, I practice. I would learn everything I could about the company and the position, and I would get on the phone, and I wouldn't focus on saying the things that I knew. I would only focus on saying the things that I could physically say. As you can imagine, I did not have very good luck finding a job, and so I eventually turned to freelancing. So I freelanced for 5 or 6 years, and I eventually kind of came to a point where the stuttering was stopping me from just talking to people, right? Like, I have trouble saying my name, and so I would be terrified to go to different events where I would have to say, hi, I'm Sharon, because I don't know if it's going to come out. And I mean, in order to get, people to like, hire you, you have to like be able to say, who you are and what you do. And if you can't say that, project is really difficult. So I eventually came to a point where I had to find help, and I turned to speech therapy, and it changed my life. So I'm going to get back to that, but I do want to talk about collaboration, because that's what this talk is about, being more collaborative. So I'm definitely this is fun. Not an expert on collaboration, but I do know how it feels to, have breakdowns in communication. And so I had my own theories as to why people kind of had a difficult time collaborating, but I wanted to do some research to see if the hunches I had were true. And it turns out that 2 of the main reasons why people don't like to collaborate is because they are either afraid of being wrong, or they have trouble translating what they know into a language that others can truly understand. So first, let's talk about being afraid of being wrong. So the interesting thing about stuttering is that it kind of like plays tricks on you, right? So like I talked about a lot of the experience I had and how those experiences shaped me. Because I was stuttering, I was afraid to talk to people because I was afraid of being judged. I mean, I don't sound like a lot of other people do, and I generally stutter a tiny bit more when I'm feeling, concerned about things, if I'm worried that I'm going to say something that isn't going to be correct. I was afraid to talk because I was afraid that I was going to be judged. So how many of you guys are afraid to talk about something because you're afraid of being wrong or you're afraid of being judged? Oh, thank you. Participation. Wasn't expecting that. So, to take that a step further, how many of your coworkers are afraid? How many of your employees are afraid? How many of your team members are afraid? The other reason people are afraid to collaborate is because they have trouble translating what they know to a language that people can truly understand, right? Well, I am the expert on this because I have walked into a ton of rooms and I have tried to say things before, and I know that a lot of the time it's really difficult to truly understand the things that I'm saying. You know, and that was another, reason why I just stopped talking, was because I was terrified that people wouldn't, totally understand what I was trying to say. What's even worse, though, is you have to say something, the first time and then having to repeat it, which for a stutterer isn't just, kind of like, ugh. It's, no, really, I don't know if I'm going to be able to say it again, so I'm just not going to say it in the first place. How many of you guys can relate to this, right? Like, you have an idea, you want to share it with a person, or a ton of people, or your boss, or your coworkers, yet you don't know if the words that you choose are going to really resonate with the other person, or if they're really going to understand it at all. Have you ever stopped yourself? Okay, one participation. These were hypothetical questions, so I wasn't expecting. Have you ever stopped yourself from saying something you knew would add value because you were concerned that people wouldn't understand? So I was terrified to speak because I was constantly concerned that people, wouldn't understand me. And after years of, hiding and trying to figure out how to stutter, I finally decided to kind of face my fear of talking. And so here's where the speech therapy piece comes in. Like, in the beginning of it, I would go in there thinking that that I was going to learn techniques to help me just avoid stuttering altogether, right? Well, after about 2 years of going, yes, it took me 2 years and the other 27 years to realize that I can't avoid stuttering. It takes me a long time to learn lessons. You know, I finally understood that the only way that I'm going to, quote unquote, beat stuttering is if I just kind of accept that this is how I'm going to speak and that it's okay to do that. So I decided to pursue public speaking as a way to kind of face my fear of talking. So in 2015, I spoke at about 12 conferences on improving communication through being vulnerable and empathetic. The goal was to just help people, you know, pay attention to the things that other people were saying. We live in a very fast-paced environment. Businesses, the tech industry especially is constantly, you know, on the go, and people are trying to get things done very quickly. And so I used stuttering as a way to show people that it's okay to kind of slow down and really listen to what other people are saying. So I ended up helping people, but it wasn't in the way that I thought I was going to help people. So pretty much every single time after I spoke somewhere, people felt extremely comfortable just like coming up to me and telling me things that were extremely personal. The first time it happened, I was at LambdaConf, and a woman actually came up to me after the talk and said that, yeah, like I have a very difficult time just like talking to other people and dealing with, you know, my coworkers because I'm bipolar. So again, like I'm not a therapist, I'm just like a writer. So I'm just like, oh my God, wow, I'm glad my talk could help. And I was like running out of there, I don't know what to say. So that happened, and then things like that though, they just kept happening. Of course I was uncomfortable, and then I was like, hold on a second, like, that's because I've kind of exposed my flaws and I was honest, you know, about my vulnerabilities, and I embraced the fear I had. People felt extremely comfortable talking to me about their flaws and their insecurities and their vulnerabilities. Another really interesting thing happened. I was talking to a bunch of people right after a talk that I given, and the conversation stopped being centered around, you know, the things that I said, and they kind of took the conversation, you know, to themselves, and they talked to each other in a way that they hadn't talked to each other before. I had kind of unknowingly fostered a collaborative environment. And those, in my opinion, are the keys to collaboration: vulnerability and empathy. Everyone is afraid that their ideas are going to suck. And it's not because they're bad ideas. It's because they are afraid that those ideas aren't going to be received in a positive way. So, how can you kind of combat that fear? How can you foster collaboration on your team or just in your company in general? Well, the first thing that you have to do is speak up, because silence kills collaboration. People are afraid to contribute because they are afraid of being wrong. So instead of punishing being wrong or punishing failure, encourage learning from those mistakes. And that's especially true of very new developers who are going to have just a ton of questions because they need your help. And so you have to create the environment for them to want to, reach out to you and learn something. Now, when it comes to articulating your ideas, think about the listener. What do they need to hear from you to truly receive the message that you're trying to deliver? This is where empathy comes in. As a speaker, you have to understand that, not everyone is on the same experience level as you or the same intellectual level as you. And that's okay. Some people can hear things one time and be good to go. Other people, it's going to take a little bit more hand-holding. And again, that's okay. Now, if you're the listener and you are dealing with a speaker who is struggling to get their points across, think back to right now and just hearing me speak. What are the things that you guys have to do right now to truly understand me? I'm willing to bet that you have to slow down a little bit, that you have to pay attention a little bit harder, and that you have to be a little bit more patient. You have to work harder to listen to me because I'm not the easiest person to understand all the time. Take that same approach when you are listening to and collaborating with your colleagues. So the main thing that I want you to take away from this talk is to embrace vulnerability as a great asset to collaboration. It takes courage to speak up, even if you may be wrong, especially if you could be wrong. And it takes great empathy to listen to others as they struggle to say something valuable. Practice those things every single day, and you will foster an extremely collaborative environment.